from your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
The Amarillo Civic Center funding trial wrapped up this past week. Coming up, more about the case and when we could hear a verdict. Also, parents who lost a child during the Robb Elementary School shooting in Uvalde are speaking out and pushing for gun law reform. The trial surrounding the Amarillo Civic Center funding took place last week. The legal teams for the city of Amarillo and business owner Alex Fairley presented their cases to the Judge William Souter in the 320th Judicial Court of Potter County. Judge Souter will now determine if it was legal for the city of Amarillo to use $260 million in anticipation notes to fund improvements and expansion projects for the Amarillo Civic Center complex. Politics Today's Maya Clark heard from both sides ahead of the trial.
The Amarillo City Council first approved an issuance of $260 million in tax notes to fund the renovation and expansion of the Amarillo Civic Center complex back in May.
We reached a point where 80% of the City Council felt like the right business decision for the city was to move forward as quickly as possible. And so the tool that was available to us to do that was anticipation notes.
For that vote, Fairley questioned whether or not the city was legally able to use the notes in that way.
If people in government who have the ability to impose tax get to do whatever they want just because that person's opinion is we just need this, then government is utterly out of control and run amok. So it's a really bad answer to say we told people we wanted it, so even if we did something wrong, they should have had good notice.
Nelson says taxpayers are losing money on the Civic Center every day, and last year, $6,300 a day went towards subsidizing the Civic Center, which is why she believes something has to be done.
We felt the urgency of solving it now. If we could do it and do it before interest rates went up, before construction costs continued to climb. So we tried to act quickly in order to capture that opportunity.
He believes the issue should be brought back to the people to vote on for funding the Civic Center.
It's just a principled issue. Taxing entities, I think they either did something illegal or they abused the spirit and the intent of a law by finding an end around a two-step process it was never intended to be.
Both sides shared what they hope will come from the suit.
I think we followed the process correctly. Anticipation notes are just a tool that every city has in the toolbox for issuing debt. We used it properly. We followed the statute properly, and I think as we trust the process of this litigation, the results will show that we followed the statute properly.
And I mean, there's a goal is that Judge Souter says, "Look, you didn't do this right. I'm not going to let you do it," and they turn back this ordinance and the potential to borrow this money. But I think secondarily, and maybe it's become primarily, is just that it's become well known all across the state of Texas now that Amarillo is trying to do this.
During last week's trial, expert witnesses along with members of City Council provided their testimonies for the judge. Officials from all parties then presented their closing arguments Wednesday. At the end of the hearing on Wednesday, Judge Souter said he expected to make a decision in 10 days or less. For an in-depth look at the testimony provided by expert witnesses and City Council, head over to our website, myhighplains.com. The Texas Supreme Court has denied a City of Amarillo appeal ending a 6-year workplace dispute in favor of Amarillo firefighters. According to the Amarillo Professional Firefighters Association, the dispute started back in 2015 when 2 Amarillo firefighters alleged they were passed over for promotions in violation of state law. The city won the initial round of proceedings, but the Court of Appeals in the 7th District of Texas reversed that ruling, and now the Texas Supreme Court has denied the city's appeal. A local survivor of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis has died at the age of 98. That story as we honor a hometown hero. According to officials with the Texas Panhandle War Memorial Center, Cletus LeBeau died last week in Amarillo. LeBeau served as a fire controlman technician and a petty officer 3rd class on the USS Indianapolis. He was among the 316 servicemen who survived the sinking of the ship. According to officials, LeBeau died in Amarillo on Thursday. Officials say funeral services have been scheduled for this weekend in Memphis. Families of Uvalde shooting victims are now pushing for gun reform, coming up their efforts to prevent more gun violence I'm Kaylee Green. You're watching Politics Today from your local election headquarters. It's been more than 19 weeks since the Uvalde elementary school shooting, and last week, a parent who lost his son in the shooting camped outside of the district's central school office in protest, and other parents have joined him. None of these school officers seem to have faced any consequences after that tragic day. Politics Today's Jayla Washington reports.
Bang, pleaded, cried.
Brett Cross is giving all he has left.
So now we don't ask, we demand.
Frankly,
that's my setup for the night.
He is fed up, so he hasn't left Uvalde CISD school administration grounds since last Tuesday.
I'm not letting them forget. I'm not letting them forget the 19 kids, the 2 teachers, you know. I will be a daily reminder, so that's what we're doing.
He lost his son Uzziah in the shooting, and he wants the district's police officers who responded that day, who didn't charge the classroom to confront the shooter, to be held accountable.
They're still walking around like nothing. Accountability needs to happen. Accountability starts at home. Suspend these officers until an investigation is completed.
The Department of Justice is investigating what happened, and the Texas Department of Public Safety is investigating its own officers' role in the response. 2 have been suspended with pay. Now, Cross was able to meet with Uvalde CISD superintendent last week, and he told him this.
We are doing the investigation, but I need those officers, just like the city needs their officers.
For what?
The sheriff's department needs their sheriff officers. We're doing the audit this week. They need to be present to answer questions.
Still, Cross won't rest until he feels like all involved face where they failed.
It's nothing I say or do will bring them back, but I can help in any way that I can to make sure that this doesn't happen to somebody else.
The superintendent put out a letter saying he doesn't condone the group of protesters' behavior and is seeking an end to the disruption. Cross and his wife have since put out 19 backpacks in front of the administration's building to serve as a reminder of the 19 children who lost their lives. Families of victims and survivors of the shooting at Robb Elementary say they're united on one goal: to prevent more gun violence in Texas. They've joined with Texas Democrats to highlight what they believe are dangerous gun policies that they believe led to the murder of 19 students and 2 teachers.
Our leaders, including Greg Abbott and Tony Gonzalez, have repeatedly refused to support stricter gun laws, including raising the minimum age to purchase an assault weapon from 18 to 21, red flag laws, and increased background checks. This November, when you're considering who to vote for, ask yourself which candidates prioritize the lives of our most vulnerable constituents, our children.
Governor Abbott has said school safety will be an emergency item in the upcoming legislative session, which starts in January. Backlash directed at the Uvalde School District after it hired a school police officer despite knowing she was under a DPS investigation. That investigation tied to the shooting at Robb Elementary School. Now she's no longer employed with the school district's police force. Politics Today's Monica Madden explains.
May 24th, the day of the massacre. Crimson Elizondo, at the time a DPS trooper, is the first from her agency to arrive at Robb Elementary. In another video obtained by CNN, she's heard on camera saying, quote, "If my son had been in there, I would not have been outside, I promise you that." It led Uvalde CISD to fire her from their school police department Thursday. In a statement announcing her termination, Uvalde CISD says those remarks are not consistent with the district's expectations. The decision to fire her only came Thursday after her hire got media attention. Emails we obtained show the district knew the state had already begun investigating Elizondo. As part of her background check, this July email shows DPS informed Uvalde CISD that Elizondo was already under investigation for actions inconsistent with the training and department requirements. It's not clear if the district knew that the investigation is linked to the school shooting, but records show the school district hired her anyway August 30th.
Poor leadership and poor judgment.
Some law enforcement experts say the decision failed students.
I wouldn't hire anybody that was part of that response.
Former police chief Art Acevedo says he's not sure what the district was thinking.
When those peace officers, those police officers were hired, Not one person came on the department unless I, as the police chief, actually looked at the background, reviewed it, and personally signed it.
And at the very least, we should ask the school district to reevaluate all its officers.
State Senator Roland Gutierrez, who represents Uvalde, says this all further shows lack of accountability.
This goes bigger than those people that were on the scene. It goes to their leadership. Your question is, can we trust law enforcement?
According to records our team in Austin obtained from the Texas Commissioner of Law Enforcement, Officer Elizondo had no record of active shooter training during her time at DPS. We reached out to the district to ask them why leaders chose to hire her but did not hear back. The race for Texas governor heating up as the two candidates went head-to-head in their only debate. Coming up, a look at the highlights from the night. Welcome back to Politics Today. Heated exchanges from Governor Greg Abbott and challenger Beto O'Rourke during last Friday's Texas governor's debate in the Rio Grande Valley. That back and forth was over the topic of Abbott's response to the May 24th school shooting in Uvalde. It was just one of the major moments during the hour-long debate hosted by our parent company Nexstar. Politics Today's Austin correspondent Monica Madden has highlights.
Abbott frequently criticized O'Rourke's past remarks versus his current stances, accusing him of flip-flopping. Meanwhile, O'Rourke tried to paint a picture that it's time for change, responding to several issues like immigration, saying that the incumbent has had 8 years to fix such problems.
Texas has responded by making sure that we have the National Guard and DPS deployed where they're making arrests and turning back illegal immigrants, as well as what we're doing to help local communities by busing them from the area where Border Patrol is dropping them off to sanctuary cities in northeastern parts of the country. But what we're doing is making sure that we are keeping our community safe, and this is completely different than the way things would be under Beto, because he said months ago, there is no problem on the border.
We are 8 years into his time as governor, and this is what we have on our border. In fact, $4 billion into Operation Lone Star. We're seeing not fewer, but more encounters at our border right now. What we need is a safe, legal, orderly path for anyone who wants to come here to work, to join family, or to seek asylum.
Another key moment was on the issue of Texas's electric grid reliability.
When the blackout started, he ordered the price of electricity pegged at its highest allowable rate. Gas started trading at 200 times what it had sold for the day before. Now we are all paying $45 more on average in our monthly utility bills. It's the Abbott tax that all of us pay.
Ever since I signed those reform laws, no Texan has lost power because of the Texas power grid. We set 11 new all-time records for heat. Time and again, the power grid was able to keep up. And
this most likely is the only time you'll see those two on the same stage, as neither have agreed to another debate with just a few weeks until the election. Now, in that hour-long debate between Abbott and O'Rourke, our parent company Nexstar could only get to so many questions. Voters sent them nearly 300 questions they wanted answers to. Politics Today, Jayla Washington went back through that list and brings us some answers.
Governor, what steps would you take to ensure that there is not another ERCOT failure like we had during the winter of 2021?
From Texas's electricity grid to affordable housing.
What are your plans to help get mortgage rates under control and make sure that housing stays affordable for everyone?
These are some of the questions viewers asked during the debate. But we received dozens more. Some wanted to know what Abbott or Beto would do about Texas's water supply as the state grows. There's no mention of this on either candidate's website. Beto's office, though, got back with us saying, as governor, Beto will appoint regulators who will enforce the pollution laws we have on the books and use a portion of Texas's $35 billion in federal infrastructure funding to invest in water infrastructure. Next, some viewers are worried about construction negatively impacting businesses. And earlier this summer, Governor Abbott semi-addressed this when he talked about passing the 10-year transportation plan. He said, quote, as more people move to Texas and businesses grow across the state, we are working together to make sure Texans' transportation safety and mobility are secured and businesses can flourish for generations to come. Beto's office in a statement responded saying, Beto will increase the share of TxDOT's budget spent on public transportation and improve TxDOT's public bidding processes. On the topic of recapture, districts sending some of their local property tax revenue to the state, Beto's office says, quote, to better guarantee equity while moving away from recapture, Beto will work to bring school funding up to at least the national average. In 2019, Governor Abbott tweeted that Texas will, quote, begin dismantling the flawed Robin Hood scheme that has failed our schools. But the legislature has made no progress on the issue since then.
Some viewers wanted to know how both candidates would work to bridge the gap between political parties. Abbott's office did not immediately respond. Beto's office in a statement said, quote, as governor, he will be able to deliver on solutions that bring the majority of us together because he has made the effort to meet Texans in each of the state's 254 counties, far too many of which have never been visited, end quote. To watch that debate, we have links for you over at our website, myhighplains.com. Don't forget, as we enter election season, Tuesday is the last day to register to vote in the November 8th election. Head to votetexas.gov to check your registration or get registered. President Joe Biden taking a step towards decriminalizing simple marijuana possession. Up next, details on the pardon announced Thursday. Marijuana advocates are cheering a new move by President Biden. He announced Thursday he's pardoning anyone convicted of possessing weed. According to the White House, these pardons could impact thousands of people. And while this is not a full decriminalization of marijuana, it's a significant reform to drug policy. Politics Today's Washington correspondent Hannah Brandt has the latest.
No one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana.
President Biden says that's the driving force behind his decision to pardon people convicted of simple possession of marijuana under federal law. The White House says right now no one is in federal prison just for a simple possession charge, but they say the president's actions can help thousands of people overcome other obstacles.
Criminal records for marijuana possession have led to needless barriers to employment, to housing, to educational opportunities.
The pardon doesn't apply to people convicted of selling or producing the drug. And it also doesn't cover state possession charges, although President Biden is calling on governors to make similar pardons in their states. He's also asking the Attorney General to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. Right now, it's classified as Schedule 1.
The same as heroin and LSD, and more serious than fentanyl. It makes no sense.
He stopped short of calling for the complete decriminalization of marijuana. That's something Congress would have to do. Senate Leader Chuck Schumer did applaud the president's move as, quote, a huge step forward, and said lawmakers would keep working on drug policy reform. While others, like Republican Senator Tom Cotton, criticized the pardons, calling them a desperate attempt to distract from failed leadership. But for years now, President Biden has been apologizing for his role in passing stricter drug laws in the 90s. And this step emphasizes his shift on the issue.
Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. It's time that we right these wrongs.
The president also noted that people of color are arrested and convicted for marijuana charges at disproportionately higher rates. So he made it clear that for him, this move is about racial justice too. We'll wrap things up right after this. Keep it here. Welcome back to Politics Today. The Barfield has been nominated for a statewide award from the Texas Downtown Association. So this happened. The association says the hotel is a finalist for the 2022 President's Award program, which recognizes outstanding projects, places, and people of downtowns across Texas. Center City Executive Director Beth Duke was the one who nominated the Barfield in the category of Best Renovation, Rehabilitation, and Restoration. The winners will be announced on November 2nd at the President's Awards Gala in San Marcos. Remember, you can like us over on Facebook. Plus, you can follow us on Twitter and stay up on the latest political news with us. This week, we have continuing coverage for you over at myhighplains.com. Plus, check us out on Alexa, Twitter, and Instagram, and give us a like over on Facebook. Thanks for watching Politics Today. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for the regular news.